Weightlifters, this is Weed, the first day presentation with some information that you need to know, and there's a worksheet to complete because there will be questions on the quiz and also the final related to this. And not only do you need to score well on those quizzes, but also it's going to be what we do in terms of our practice. So this is Weight Training 1, PHED 1112, and you should know when the class meets and where, and the expectations for that. My name is David E. Wiederecht. I have a master's degree, Master's of Science in Exercise Science and Physical Education. I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist. I also have a USATF Level 1 and Level 2 certification. I'm Functional Movement Screen Level 1 and Fundamental Capacity Screen as well. My name is pronounced Weed-erecht, as you can see, and I'm also known as Weed, that's W-I-E-D, period. Even though phonetically it looks like Weed. My office is NRB, North Receiving Building 209P, as in Peter or Paul. My office phone number is 281-290-2760, and my best method of contact is David E. Wiederecht at lonestar.edu. If you email me during the week, Monday through Friday till noon, I should have a reply within 24 hours. If it's afternoon on Friday and up until Monday morning, then you can expect maybe 48 hours. I try to be dutiful with that, but sometimes life happens. You can check out the office hours on the syllabus. And on Fridays, it is by appointment only, and depending on when you take this class, what session, might be other days as well. During the fall and the spring, and sometimes summer, I teach PHED 1164, and we'll talk about that, and PHED 1301, which is Foundations of Kinesiology. I am currently the Department Chair of Accounting, Economics, and Kinesiology. I have taught a number of pre-professional courses at 3 different colleges, check that, and some of those were universities. And during my tenure as faculty, I have supervised 30 health and physical education student teachers. So starting off, you might want to drop this class. PHED 1112 does not meet the component area core requirement for most degree programs at Lone Star College System, regardless of what other campuses you take classes at. So please check with a knowledgeable advisor about that. The class that meets that requirement for most degree plans is PHED 1164, which is Introduction to Physical Fitness and Wellness. And that is offered fall, spring, summer in 8-week, online, hybrid, and also full semester classes. So check your schedule, make sure that you determine which one you need. So a little bit about me. I started teaching at Lone Star College, University Park, in the fall of 2015. Prior to that, I was at Bethel College in Mishawaka, Indiana. Now it's Bethel University, and they are the home of the pilots. I was at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. I was the head women's track and field coach, and I also taught within the Department of Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and sometimes coaching. They are the Warhawks. I started my college teaching career at Cecil Community College in Cecil County, Maryland, Northeast Maryland, that's 2 words, and Health and Physical Education. And I started teaching at the Red Lion Area Junior High School in Red Lion, Pennsylvania, Health and Physical Education, 7th and 8th grade. And they are the Red Lion Lions, as you can see at the top. Guess what the colors for the Red Lion Lions are? That's right, black and gold. So I am married to my wife, and she's an RN at, now it's not Tomball Regional, it's HCA Houston North Tomball or something like that, but she's doing the same thing. If you ever meet my wife professionally, you or someone you love is not doing well, since she mainly works in the CCU, the critical care unit. I do have 3 daughters, even though the age ranges there are different, because just like everyone ages. My oldest daughter is on the left here. That her name is Haley. She lives in South Korea. She teaches English. This is my middle daughter, whose name is Catherine, and this is my youngest daughter, whose name is Julia. This is my wife. That white stuff in the background is called snow. That's in Petoskey, Michigan. And this is in Sedona, Arizona at that's Bell Rock right there. They look a little confused. So we were hiking and it was really hot and dry, which is better than hot and humid, in my personal opinion. So again, some more about me. I have a bachelor's degree from Messiah College in Grantham, Pennsylvania, health and physical education, and I do have a PEA, Pennsylvania teaching license for health and physical education, and they're the Messiah College Falcons. I have a Master's of Science, as I stated previously, from Western Maryland College, which is actually now called McDaniel College, and that's the home of the Green Terror. There's only one of them. I am currently a doctoral student at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, for online EDD, a Doctor of Education in Kinesiology. And I am past my second semester. I am now in my third year, so that would be what, sixth semester? Yeah, so that's going. Talked about those certifications before. So I have taught a number of different levels, areas of the country. I've coached junior high up to Division I. I used to coach at the University of Delaware for track and field. And I coached an athlete who competed internationally. He didn't compete at the international level because of me, but I had the pleasure of helping to coach him and tweak a little bit of what he does. So if I'm speaking Pennsylvanian with a Wisconsin and Indiana accent, please ask me to translate. So what is your philosophy of movement? Most people do not consider that, even kinesiology professionals. So a couple years ago, we went through 3 rounds of trying to hire a full-time faculty member in kinesiology. And one of the phone interview questions was, what is your philosophy of movement? And sad to say, most of the people had no idea what to answer, and no one gave what I would consider to be a good answer for their philosophy of movement. They talked about what they did, but it wasn't a philosophy of movement. My philosophy of movement is move well so that you can move often. So you want to own your movement. So the attendance policy, if your class doesn't start at 4 p.m., then apologies, because that's the slide that I have right now. So I am a stickler about education, and part of education is teaching soft skills, such as being on time versus being late. You have a 5-minute grace period. So 2 tardies after 5 minutes of being late equals 1 unexcused absence. An unexcused absence is when you just don't show up. And 2 unexcused absences are permitted. You do have to make up the workout. You have to go to plan B. And then after the 3rd and subsequent unexcused absences, the 3rd one you lose 10%, the 4th 20%, 5th 30%. You understand that you're not going to do well academically, so you have to show up. This is an activity class. And excused absence is when you let me know prior to that. And I realize people make appointments, people have family concerns, other issues that are going on, traffic, cars break down, etc. If you're in the middle of a traffic jam, probably best not to text me or send an email saying, hey, I'm going to be late to class, because I don't carry my phone with me. Just when you get there, be safe, and then let me know. Try to be understanding. So do you know what the difference between confirmation biases and cognitive dissonance? If you don't, confirmation bias is the idea that we like to be correct, and we generally hang out with people and we associate with people who kind of have the same values. Not always, but so whatever your thought is politically, and this class is not political in nature, you probably listen to people who confirm what you think, and you think the other people are at best ignorant, and at worst they're actually devious. Cognitive dissonance is a black swan incident where you hear information that you did not hear before, but when you think about it, it makes sense, and it makes you question your values and beliefs. I'm not trying to make you change your value and or beliefs in this class. That's not part of what we're doing. But I want you to think about, what have you learned about exercise and all of the factors that go along with that, resistance training, etc., And was the person speaking out of wisdom and evidence-based practice and research? Or were they just telling you what they had heard from some other guy who heard it from some other guy, etc.? So there is a science to exercise science. So here is the importance of racking in 2 different T-Nation memes. I just like T-Nation memes because they make me laugh. They're not for you, they're for me. So what we do in this class. Day 1, you will learn about a loaded carry. You can certainly keep your shoes on, unlike the lady who is walking in the gym with barefoot. We're going to be doing some sort of pull-up, and I'll show you 3 different versions. You can check out on D2L the 3 different videos I made for that. We're going to do a hinge. So right here, I'm going to do this assessment for you and determine what is the best ability. If you notice the hinge, the hips go back, versus the squat right down here, where the hips go down. Hinge, squat, squat, hinge. Notice he keeps that good posture, including right here. Imagine a piece of fruit here. That piece of fruit stays there the entire time. It doesn't change. We're going to do some sort of press. This is called a half-kneeling landmine press. And the more narrow that base is, the more challenging it is. This is working pressing, but it's also working on your core because you have to be able to figure that out and keep your hips level, etc. And we're also going to rotate a little bit in our warm-up. This is the progression for the Turkish get-up. We're going to do a naked get-up, which doesn't mean peel your clothes off. That means nothing in that up hand. And we will teach that step by step. He's doing a really poor job of looking at his hand, which he should be doing here. And this is only half of it because then you have to reverse it back to here. So unfortunately, a lot of people remember, confirmation bias, cognitive dissonance, that if you work out hard and you're sweating profusely and the next day you can't walk, that it was a good workout. That might actually be a dumb workout, and that's a bill that you're going to have to pay later, where a smart workout is going to not injure you. And I'm not saying soreness is bad, but you have to look at that. And what is the long-term effect? What is the sustainability of that? So normally in the face-to-face version, this is where you go over some information. You tell us what your name is, what your major hope to be, or what you're doing, and then where are you on the resistance training continuum, and then what's your favorite form of movement, exercise, physical activity. And I'm not talking bicep curl, I'm talking like resistance training, or running, or bicycling, or swimming, or aqua stripper pole, or yoga, or dance, or who knows what else is out there. So what does gym etiquette look like? So in the sport of golf, etiquette is very important, and they talk about that. And same thing with tennis, where you do certain things and other things are prohibited, even though some of those rules have changed a little bit. So what does it look like for you displaying good gym etiquette? Though if you work out at a gym, most people ignore this, but then again, they're probably mouth breathers. So gym etiquette means you rack the weight correctly after you use it. You wipe down your bench and other items after you use it. You don't hog a machine or a piece of equipment for 3 hours in a row. You don't sit down on your chest press and do an exercise. In the next 20 minutes, you're taking selfies and talking about how you're killing it in the gym. Because you're not killing it in the gym. You're just sitting on your butt with probably tech neck or eye posture and being a tool. It means that you leave the gym better than when you arrived. So if you're a narcissist, that doesn't mean that you showed up and you made the gym better. That's not how it works out. That means that you helped to clean things that were out of place. Listen, if you have to move a weight or a collar to get something, you're doing it wrong. So use a little common sense, please. For the collars that we have at the gym, there are hooks on the inside of the half rack and full rack, and there's other collars that are there. So if it doesn't look right, you did something wrong, fix it. Kettlebells, they like to be paired or in quads, and the weight should be showing at return your grids in grid 2.0 where they belong. So you're going to be getting some information for the first day handout. So you want to record that information. You may certainly stop this as it's playing along so you have that. And this is number one so that we have a vocabulary that we can share and we can talk and make sense to each other. And also for the quiz. So remember, any workout can make you tired, but a good workout program will make you better. So safety is the most important factor. I will reiterate that a number of times, but you not hurting yourself is very important, because when you hurt yourself, then you can't continue. Speaking from an incident recently where I accidentally dropped a 45-pound plate on my toe, which did not feel very good. And it was bruised and sore and painful, and, well, we won't be doing that anytime soon. It was just a loss of concentration on my part. So make sure that you have ample room on all sides when you are moving, including the warm-up and when you're lifting, etc. Look before you leap. When we're doing swings, if you walk into a kettlebell swing, that's because you were not following good protocol. Spotting will be in the second presentation. If you need spotting for whatever reason, I can help you with that. Medicine ball is necessarily not really good throwing indoors. Outdoors a little bit better. We do have jump ropes which you can use. Check out the notification of medical conditions. There are 600 muscles in the human body. We were certainly designed to move. Unfortunately, we have a sedentary society. And for most people, movement is only, okay, I'm going to work out, and the rest of the day you don't consider movement as a part of your life. You want to incorporate movement throughout your life, whatever that is, whatever you are doing, rather than sitting at your desk hopefully for 12 hours a day. So if you want to be academically successful in this class, here are 5 steps. Attend class every day on time. Train using the training parameters that I give you and complete the required lifts, and expend effort. Use attentiveness during the presentations. Use the Nearpod links. Study for the quizzes and complete them on time. And interact with your classmates. Now, I've had weight training classes that were awesome because the students in the class really got along well and they interacted well, and I've got other ones where no one talked to each other and it was kind of like painful. But I can't change that. I can't make you interact. So hopefully you will get along well with others and talk and share and recover together, etc. So Greg Cook, he is one of my movement heroes. He is a physical therapist in Southern Virginia. So he talks about quality of movement supersedes quantity of movement. Okay, here's another confirmation bias, or cognitive dissonance, where most people just do a lot of movement and then that's good. That's not how it works. There is very little benefit for sustainability of effort and for long-term use of whatever form of activity you have. If you do quantity without quality, you're going to injure yourself. Those of you who have lifted before, when you're tired, what's the first thing that goes? Technique. And when your technique goes, that's when you're more likely to get injured. So we want to do that. It doesn't work to add strength to dysfunction. So if you can't move well, why would you try to make that stronger? So how serious am I about movement, weight training, and strength and conditioning? I'll give you time to think about that. If you're looking at Nearpod through the link on D2L, you could put an answer in there potentially. So I'm as serious as a heart attack. I think this is vitally important. We'll talk a little bit about health-related physical fitness shortly and go through there. So here are some terms that you need to know, understand, be able to speak so that we can communicate. And these are on that worksheet that you could have downloaded or I gave you in person. So reps are the abbreviation for repetitions. How many times you can perform the activity. So our first cycle, we're doing 1 set of 10 repetitions. So that means that you do that activity, that exercise, 10 times in a row with quality, or 5 times in a row until you get to 10 times in a row. And you don't want to do 2, take a break, do 2 more. That would be 2 sets of 2. So this is sustained effort in a row. Sets are when you group that. So if you're doing 2 sets of 10, you do a set of 10 exercises. You recover. And you recover, you can certainly do another exercise. You can do jumping jacks or stability ball, push-ups, or prone skier or elastic band or whatever that is. And then you do another set. To figure out what percent you should be working, and we'll see this later on in the presentation, you want to use your max. We do not max out in this class for a variety of reasons. Those of you who have athletic backgrounds, perhaps you did strength and conditioning as part of that training and you maxed out. And the reason you max out is to see, okay, am I getting stronger? Is this training program working? And then you base your training on that 1 rep max. So when you are training, you're trying to improve the efficiency of an energy system. So you remember aerobic and anaerobic, and a motor pathway. That means how smooth is that action from your brain to your muscle and then the feedback loop back. So for those of you who are untrained, you've never lifted weights before, though you have been lifting your body your entire life, the initial gains in strength will be due to neuromuscular efficiency. So that means that you become more efficient in recruiting those muscle fibers to move that. So there are 2 concepts, training effect. So when you train consistently, you have neural adaptations, which is brain to muscle. And then there are physiological changes that occur due to the training, whether that's changes in the muscle, changes in the connective tissue, changes in your hormonal level. All of those things happen. And then when you stop training, this is bad, this is called reversibility or detraining. So that's where you return to your pre-training state of being. So you decondition. Remember, there is no off-season for movement, so you always want to have some form of movement in your life. So the training effect causes positive changes, and you can think about the reversibility or detraining as a negative effect. So going back to that previous slide, if you were involved in athletics, remember at the start of the season, you did your training and you were sore and it was miserable, and then by the end of the season you were very fit based on that sport, and then at the end of the season you stopped moving, and if you had another year of eligibility, the next year you got sore all over again. Yeah, that's how it happened. So overload is a concept that you want to understand, and this is what we require in weight training. That's forcing the body to work harder than it normally does, so the body can compensate and become better, make those neural adaptations, make those muscular and ligamentary and tendon and hormonal changes. So if you're always doing 3 sets of 10 at 10, you're not going to be doing overload. We need to increase the amount of weight. So we do 1 set of 10 at 15, 1 set of 8 at 15, 1 set of 4 at 15, or whatever you have during that day. Specificity, we'll see that a little bit later, is the SAID principle, is you gain where you train. Specific adaptations to imposed demands. Progression is what I was talking about with overload, where you systematically and logically create a greater challenge so that your body is going to adapt, and therefore you're going to get stronger, and then you have to adapt again. And then overcompensation, that's the concept that your body is going to respond to that training session, if it's a smart training session, and that happens during sleep or rest or recovery. So if you're not getting enough sleep, you are not maximizing your performance. And as I stated, return all the implements to their appropriate place. Collars, kettlebells, elastic bands hang by the band, dumbbells, bumpers, plates, steps, jumping boxes, whatever that is. Leave it better than when you arrived. So the SAID principle, as I mentioned before, is specific adaptations to imposed demands. So if you continually put a demand on your body is going to adapt in a positive or a negative way. So if you're constantly looking at your phone with your head at a 90-degree angle, guess what's going to happen to your posture? Yeah, you're hitting save on a crappy document. So as Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. So things that you want to consider when it comes to the SAID principle. What are the movements and the muscles involved? How fast do you need to move for your goals? So a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to run faster because I'm going to do a back squat. Okay, well, let's think about the back squat for a second as an example. That's 2 feet on the ground, a bar on your back. This is a back squat. And you go down slowly and return to standing relatively slowly. Yes, you can get stronger. Yes, you're going to develop the musculature of your lower body and also your core, and there's positive gains from that. It has a positive hormonal response. But when I run off one leg, and I try to do that as explosively and as fast as possible. When you increase the amount of weight on a lift, what happens to the rate of speed? It slows down, right? So is slow better than fast and explosive? I'm not saying don't do back squats. I'm not saying don't run. I'm just saying what people think is improving might not necessarily work. So also consider the demands of the activity. We want to move from simple to complex so that we are, again, adapting. So you might not get larger muscles, but you're able to do more complex exercises. The FIT principle, it's actually FIT VP now. Frequency, intensity, time, type, volume, and progression. So frequency, how often do we train? We only train twice a week in class that you're going to record on your training log. Optimally, 3 full body workouts a week. We do not do a split routine in here. We don't do bis and tris one day and shoulders and back the other day. We do full body because we only meet twice a week. Intensity, for cardio type of equipment, that is based on heart rate, but for weight training, that's the percent of your 1 rep max. Time is recovery between sets. So a set of 10, you are looking at 1 minute to 1.5 minutes of recovery. Again, if you're sitting on that machine, probably doing it wrong. If you're taking 10 minutes when you're updating social media about how you're killing it and taking pictures, you're really doing it wrong. The greater the amount of intensity, so you're doing heavy singles and doubles, you're going to have greater recovery time. If you're working on muscle tone, muscle endurance, another way of saying it, then you have a short recovery. And then what is the type? We are anaerobic beasts in this class, but if we continually move, it's going to have an impact on our cardiorespiratory system. And we're also going to get stronger, which is the goal. So a physically literate individual is someone who can do these 5 different standards. Being physically literate means that you have the capability and the confidence to move in a variety of ways. You have the knowledge and understanding that doing those activities are going to have a health and wellness benefit, and you're motivated to do that for your entire life. We're not just moving for the here and now, we're thinking about long term. And we can use these skills in a variety of environments. So as an example, my wife and I and my oldest brother and my other siblings and their spouses were supposed to come along, but they did not. We were hiking in North Carolina. And I don't do any aerobic, but my wife and my older brother, they were struggling on some of the hills. They don't train the same way that I do, and I'm not saying I'm the best ever, because I'm certainly not. But I kept on having to stop and look back and wait for them as they were coming along. Even though I don't do hiking, other than when I go to different places, I do walk, because that's part of my life. But I only use resistance training as my form of activity, but I am active throughout the day. So we're going to warm up in class every day because that's the physiologically correct way of doing that. We're not going to sit down on a bike or on a treadmill because that's single plane and that's stupid. We're going to do a dynamic warm up, and we'll talk about what those factors are. But there's 3 signs that you are warmed up. You're sweating, your heart rate, and your breathing has increased. So in class, there's a general type of warm up or whatever that is. So if you're involved in athletics again, you had some sort of general warm up. And then if you were in a sport or an activity that requires some skill, then you did a specific warm-up. So as a hurdler, I would do a general warm-up, and then I would get some hurdles, and I would start doing some hurdle warm-ups. And I would eventually run as fast as I could out of the blocks, and I would go over a hurdle, because that's what the race was going to be like. I didn't want to warm up during the race. I wanted to be warmed up, ready to go. So there are 5 biomotor abilities. During the warm-up, we're going to try to get all of these. Get as in achieve them. So there's speed. Even though there's a picture of a person bent at the hips coming out of starting blocks. That's not necessarily running speed, Usain Bolt, crazy fast. If you're involved in martial arts, you want to have fast hands and fast feet. If you are in striking sports like baseball or tennis or racquetball, you need to have good, racket head speed. If you're involved in texting, you have to have fast thumbs apparently, which I do not. I use one finger. Strength, there's all different types of strength. There's specialized strength. There's flexibility. Again, there's dynamic and static stretching. We'll assess your ability to do the sit and reach. Even though you might stink at that, you could be relatively flexible. Endurance, unfortunately, they have a picture of a person doing long distance running. If you walk from the 2nd floor up to the 8th floor in building 12 or 13, does that make you tired? Yes, that requires endurance. If you are writing in a lecture and you write for 50 minutes straight and your arm is shriveled up by the end because you can't feel your fingers anymore from writing so much, that is an endurance. And then coordination is an efficiency in movement patterns, and we're going to work on that in our warm-up, trying to improve your coordination. Yes, some people are more coordinated than others, but you can still improve that. Guess what happens to your coordination as you get older? It gets worse. Why? Because you probably don't move as much. So some other concepts. We have time under tension. So if you talk to your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder, they're going to be talking about time under tension. They might not necessarily use that term, but they're trying to get as much blood flow to the muscle, and usually that's about 45 seconds of continued activity. Bodybuilders are not concerned about technique. They're worried about hypertrophy, which is getting larger muscles. Another one that I'll talk about a couple of other times are Fitz and Posner's, which is right here. So when we're learning a new skill, such as the deadlift, for those of you who have never deadlifted before, or the Bulgarian goat bag swing, or the hardstyle kettlebell swing, or the Turkish get-up, their idea is that we have finite attentional demands, and in the cognitive stage, it requires a lot of attentional demands, so you can't do anything else. Associative is once you have gained a little bit more skills and you can look at what these differences are. And then autonomous is when it becomes automatic. So hopefully, now that you have been driving for years, assuming that you are driving, you don't have to really think about all of the different activities that you need to do to keep the car between the two lines, slow down when appropriate, hopefully use your turn signals, etc. But when you were first learning how to drive, that was probably an ugly sight, and your parents were frustrated having taught 3 daughters how to drive. Yeah, I don't know how I got stuck with that, but it was painful at times. You're hesitant. It takes forever to make a decision because you're having to think about all that. Now you just look and you can determine, okay, that car's going this fast. I can make that turn or I can't make that turn. And don't be a jerk and turn in front of someone who's going fast. Okay, so what is the purpose of your core? That would be your pillar, your abdominal muscles, and the musculature of your lower back. Give you a second to think about that. You can press pause if you really need a lot of time, and then hit resume or start or whatever it says on your computer. So the purpose of your core is to connect your upper body and your lower body. It is also known as your pillar. Pillars do not flop around. Pillars are rigid and they're supportive. That's the purpose of your core. Yet how do most people train their core? By flopping it around. So right now, wherever you are, sit up tall, stand up tall, and brace your abs. That's 6-pack abs. So contract and smack against your belly. That is bracing. That is normal and the preferred form that you're doing this. Hollowing, put your finger on your belly button and then suck in your belly and get your finger as close to your spinal column as possible. That is drawing in or hollowing. You're getting skinny to buckle your pants. Not normal, not efficient, not what we normally do. So when we are moving, we want to consider tummy tight, back flat, which is bracing. There's also the idea of joint centration. So when we get to the Turkish get-up, you want to stack those boxes on top of each other with proper alignment. If you remember that picture that I showed of the guy with the dowel on his back doing the hip hinge, that's what we want to do. Chest out, shoulders back. pits to hips, neutral spine, heels together, knees out, are cues for making sure that your body joints, your articulations are in good order. A neutral spine, imagine a piece of fruit between your chin and your chest. If you squeeze your chin down, you bruise the fruit or make juice. If you pick your neck up and look up to the sky or whatever that is, then you drop the fruit. So think about most of your day on your phone, on your computer. Do you have your chin down, shoulders rounded forward? Not optimal posture. So your core engages at the initiation of all movement. That is subconscious. You don't have to think about that. That's why it takes little kids, when they're born, so long to move and own their movement. So we want to avoid loaded spinal flexion. Stuart McGill is the foremost back expert, in my opinion, in the world. He's Canadian. He's got an awesome mustache. But there might be some videos that you'll see based on that. So we talked about progression, systematic and logical changes to create overload. That's part of the training effect. So when we talk about the stability ball, we want to go from wide to narrow to 1. There's a video on that. We want to go from stable to unstable. We want to go from a wide stance to a narrow stance, to a possible staggered stance or one point of contact, and then slow and controlled to explosive and dynamic. And you might not necessarily get all of these during the training program in class, but you have the rest of your life to figure it out. So here's the joint by joint concept. In the joint by joint concept, this is looking at the major articulations or joints of your body. And you can see we have this side over here, which is mobility or stability. So it makes sense that our shoulders, we want them to be mobile. Think about what you can do with your arms. And your shoulder blades, you want them to be stable. Your upper back, your T-spine right here, you want to be able to move that with mobility. And that's not going to be the same level for all of these. But it's the emphasis. Low back, in this area right here, part of your pillar. Notice what it says. It says stability, kids. How do most people train the mirror muscles on the front side of that? They do it by flexing their spine, which is mobility versus stability. Yes, we need to have a little bit of that, but a lot of our activities don't work on stability for the lower back. They're actually flexing the spine. So you can see in between the vertebrae there, there's a little grayish, whatever color that is. Those are discs of cartilage. And I talked about loaded spinal flexion. And so when you flex your spine and you load it, such as doing the leg press, not the squat, you don't want to flex your spine when doing the squat. Not the deadlift, you don't want to flex your spine when doing the deadlift. But the deadlift or the leg press, you sit down and that arches your back and then you load it. That's a herniated disc or a bulging disc. During our warm-up and when we move, we want to hit all 3 planes of human movement, which is the frontal, sagittal, and transverse. The little picture there says coronal, which is frontal. So frontal divides the body into a front and back section, and that's side-to-side movement. Shuffle step. If you're involved in baseball or softball, you're a shortstop, you need to have good frontal plane movement. Sagittal divides into the right and left, and that's forward and backward movement. And most movements are not 100% in one plane. They're multi-planar, unless you go on a machine, and machines are single plane because that's how they work. And then transverse plane is upper and lower body, and that is rotational types of items. And depending on what you do, you want to train your spine like it is a wire, so your spine is flexible and active, or you might want it to be like a telephone pole where there's not a lot of rotation. But remember, eventually you want to optimize that to the best when you are done with whatever your current activity is. Because when you're old, you don't want your back to be locked up so that you can't move. So that you have to turn your whole body when someone's talking to you because you can't turn your neck. And the goal is to use all 3 planes throughout the day and through your training so that you optimize that. and you want authentic and real movement. So we're not going to watch this video. There's a longer version in another presentation, but it's 5 exercises that you want to avoid. So here's a notification of medical conditions. If you have some sort of limitation, some sort of injury, whatever that is, please let me know so that we don't exacerbate it, make it worse in class by what we do. There are plenty of alternatives that we can use. At no point do you have to pull a bar off of the floor for the deadlift, which you will find during the hip hinge. So for the grading for this class, every day you get quote-unquote 10 points, and 55% of your grade is those 10 points every day. So when you don't show up, it doesn't work out. The class is called a lab class. So if you take a science class and you miss the labs, you can fail because you missed too many labs, even though you scored well on all the tests and everything else. Same with this class. This is an activity class. You have to be there. So 20% of that 10, so 2 out of 10, is doing the warm-up. Eventually you're going to warm up on your own, and we'll get more details about that. 70% of, or 7 out of 10, is completing all of the required exercises, doing it correctly, getting one exercise eventually checked and initialed by me, and then 10% is recovery. That is you doing flexibility and rolling out. 20% of your grade is the training log, and 25% of the grade is the online quizzes, the final quiz, the skill test, which is either the hardstyle kettlebell swing or Turkish get-up. And as I stated before, excused absences prior, unexcused absences, you just don't show up. And you will not be dropped. I don't drop anyone from class anymore. We were told not to do that, so that slide is incorrect. So shifting gears, a lot of people struggle with how to fill out the training log. It's really not that difficult. So there's also a video totally on this as well, but this is going to cover that. And it says 1164, it doesn't matter. It's all the same in terms of how to fill that out. So recognize what are your required training exercises every day, and also put your name in ink on the top here. So you have to identify what is the training. This is cycle 1, 1 to 3 sets. In 1164, that's 10 exercises every day eventually. In weight training, that is 12 exercises up to 13 eventually. So that's 13 separate exercises eventually. So these are the required for 1164 for cycle 1. For weight training, they're a little bit different, but movement is movement. So these are categories. There are specific names, as I have here. So the loaded carry is the first exercise that I'm going to teach you. That would be the waiter's walk, farmer's walk, suitcase or luggage walk, rack walk, BFR, combinations of those, seesaw walk. An example of an elastic band, you can write EB shoulder press or EB rotation, stability ball walkout, stability ball prone knee tuck. You write the specific name, you don't write the category for that. So where you see exercise, that's where you're going to record that one time. Write the specific name. If you don't know, ask. So where it has the date, that's where you're going to write the date, and then here's deadlift. Every time you do a deadlift on 2-2 or 2-4 or 2-9, 2-11, you just record it there. You're going to record the sets, the reps, the resistance, time, color of the band, seconds. So as an example, for the loaded carry, you can choose any of these. And so you would write down rack walk, and in that first spot you would write 2 sets of 40 pounds. Or you would do waiter walk, bell up, 1 set of 20. For the deadlift, here are some different examples. Romanian deadlift, kettlebell deadlift, deadlift the traditional with a mixed grip or overhand or underhand, sumo deadlift, single leg deadlift, landmine deadlift, trap bar deadlift. So this is sets, reps, and resistance, KBDL, 2 sets of 10 at 30. For pressing, here's a variety of different types of presses, not every press known to humanity. So for the decline bench press, you got 1 set of 10 at 80 and then you did a 7 at 80. For tricep press down or push down, you got 3 sets of 10 at 65. The category for a pull-up, we have an overhand pull-up, an underhand pull-up, which I call a chin-up, a supine row superband pull-up, assisted pull-up, which is a machine. Notice, lat pull-down, not a pull-up. And so for this, you would write 1 set of 8, body weight is assumed, 1 set of 3. Superband pull-up, 2 sets of 10 in orange. And for the assisted pull-up, you would do the counterweight. And the higher the number, so if this is 100, it would be easier for you to do that. If it was 60, it would be more challenging because less weight is being counterbalanced. Talked about the stability ball, so here are different names. There's a video on different stability ball exercises. You write SB stability ball prone skier, 1 set of 10, or you do a walkout 2 for 10. You don't have to write the color of the ball. That's inconsequential. Elastic band, we have rowing, chest press, shoulder press, lateral raise, tricep extension. And then we do EB shoulder press, 1 set of 10 at yellow, that's the color of the band, and then 2 sets of 10 at blue for rowing. So here's an example of an actual student that they were doing it incorrectly. So the date was April 4th. They did 2 sets of 2 on Turkish get-up. They did a stability ball squat, 4 sets of 6, because in cycle 3 we had the Turkish get-up, and squatting is required. Here we have 4-6 at 135, and then we have 4 sets of 6 at 175. I don't know what's going on there. 2 sets of 80, they need to do 4. Tricep push down, 4 sets of 6 at 60. Notice here's 80, so they do a 20-pound jump up here and here. So if you get 4 sets of 6 at 60, the next time you should increase to 70, not 80. You probably will not get 4 sets of 6. You might get 3 sets of 6 and 1 set of 5 at 80. And that's what you write down here. And so you can see this. And they only did 9 exercises. And they were supposed to do 11. So they lost points for all of that. So this is how you are graded for this. So make sure you take care of your training log. That's why we have it on a cardstock. If you're taking this class and you're doing it online, or Plan B, then there are PowerPoints that you need to do. For the PowerPoint, you need to take a video of your warm-up, upload it to YouTube, and then share the link. And then whatever that day is, you need to do, digitally record the exercise, put it in YouTube, share the link, make sure it's public so I can see it. Once I see it and give you feedback, you can delete it. And then record all of that information that you just saw. So delayed onset muscle soreness is what happens when you train. You have to be able to identify the difference between training pain versus injury pain. So if you've never worked out before, you're probably going to be experiencing more DOMS than someone who has already trained. But every 3 or 4 months when I do walking lunges, the next day and then the following day, 48 hours is the most intense, is when I have the greatest amount of booty lock, which just means that my butt is sore and my hamstrings are sore and it hurts to walk. So health-related physical fitness, which I mentioned previously, these are the ways that you measure how physically fit you are. If you think back to high school and you did fitness testing, you were measuring some or all of these. Sometimes they're listed as 4, and I'll tell you how that looks. But muscular strength is the maximal exertion of the muscular system one time. Cardiorespiratory endurance is the ability of your heart and lungs to provide oxygen to your cells. Muscular endurance is doing that activity but doing it repeatedly. Flexibility is the range of motion of body joint articulation, and body composition is the ratio of fat to non-fat. You might not have done that in high school. So in high school, for muscular strength and muscular endurance, which are usually combined, that's also known as muscular fitness. So maybe you did a push-up test or a sit-up test, which is horrible because it's flexing your spine. Or the pull-up or flexed arm hang. All of those measure muscular strength and muscular endurance, also known as muscular fitness. You might have done the 1-mile run, or the 1.5-mile run, or the 12-minute run walk, or a pacer, or you did the Harvard step test. For flexibility, you probably did the sit and reach. We're going to measure most of those in class using different items. Most people in America are interested in what's called cosmetic fitness, meaning looking good naked. But that is not health-related physical fitness. You can look good here and not be physically fit. So what is your movement language? And then here is a review. So what is the most important factor in class? What's the difference between quality versus quantity, or quantity over quality? What are the terms sets, reps, progression, overload, and the other terms? SAID principle, specific adaptations to impose demands. So what are the biomotor abilities? What are the planes of human movement, and how do we incorporate that into our workout, and especially our warm-up? So that's everything. If you have a question, go to the discussion board and write the question there, and someone will provide an answer, and I will provide the best answer that I can. Take care. Move well. Move often.